welcome back to another episode of Nico Likes to Talk. I'm Nico, and I'm going to do the one thing I've been told I do a lot sometimes is talk. And today is Father's Day. And this Father's Day, I want to do something special and something that I know my dad would have loved. My dad died 11 years ago, and while I was in the military. And I would have to say that is one of the singular moments in my life that shaped my adult life from that point on, much like anyone that loses a parent, but especially losing a parent young and especially a parent that had a lot more life to live, especially someone like my father, Marino, who, for everyone that has known him or knew him, knows what kind of I would say, big personality he was. So my father was a creator before the internet gave creators a stage. He was a gamer, a comedian, an actor, flawed but real, present. And I know without a doubt he would have been one of the first people on YouTube, probably live streaming everything from his jokes to, you know, his morning coffee or, if I had to be honest, morning Jack Daniel. He used to videotapes his comedy sets and play them for us back at home. And he believed in sharing your voice. He believed in showing up and in laughing. Even when life didn't give you much to laugh about, that was something that he always did. So today, in honor of his creative spirit, I want to share something very personal. These are letters that my dad wrote me when I was in Navy boot camp. Now, he's not here anymore, but his words are, and they mean more now that he's gone, now that I have had a decade plus of mourning and grieving and continuing on with my life as a family man myself. And this episode is not only for him, it is also for anyone who still hears their father's voice when they read their words. Now, some quick backstory. Growing up, my father, like I've mentioned before, was a very charismatic man, worked hard, but late in life, he wanted to follow his dreams of being an actor and a creator. And so he did that. And for a time, he was doing that, I would say, relatively successfully, for a young person, young kid like myself, who only saw their parent as a 9 to 5 worker, working corrections, as a correctional officer, and various other government gigs, to suddenly pivot into acting and wondering how the heck did he do that? How do you decide to just become an actor? And he was one of those people who I guarantee that if the right person in his life at a young age tapped him and said, you definitely deserve to be a creative, he would have done so. I know that he's just the product of his time and his environment. He didn't grow up in a life of pretty much privilege compared to how I did. Not to say that my life was mansions and Ferraris. I mean, I did have my fair share of dealing with alcoholism with my parents, as well as various other events, but nothing compared to what he went through as a kid growing up in the 60s, in the United States, in the South, as well as in the Washington, D.C., Maryland area. So I say that to say that I've always been proud of him for making that choice. I remember him going on auditions and coming home, getting, the parts as an extra, to eventually speaking roles, to commercials, to America's Most Wanted, to little bit parts here and there. And it was very inspiring. And I think that in some ways led me on my path as well. But for all that, his health did take a turn. Excessive drinking, heart issues, several aneurysms, just overall his health started to decline, and he would bounce back and forth and, be on antidepressants and various other things that would spike his mood to various different degrees. So all of that sort of turmoil in the house, almost that uncertainty, kind of always drove me into the military. Now, I say that as my dad always made a joke, because every time I asked him who was paying for college, he always said, your rich uncle will take care of you. Now, I have several uncles, none of which are rich. And it wasn't until that I started seriously thinking of the military, he finally said, yeah, that's your rich uncle, Uncle Sam. So for me, it wasn't like my destiny was to join the military like some other families. My father never pushed me to any other direction. He just wanted me to make the best decision for me. But with all the things going on in my household, all the things that I've processed in therapy and to various other people in my life, it was the time for me to get away and really find myself. And I watched all the videos about how hard boot camp is and yada, yada, yada. And I told myself the one thing I would never do in boot camp is I would not call home. I would not write back. I wanted to be present and truly in the moment. And my parents understood that. And that's when these letters came about. They wrote me quite frequently. Now, I pulled out these letters that my father wrote me specifically, and I've always kept them. I haven't really read over them in a long, long time. They've just always been in my memory box. But these are special because this was the first moment in my life where I truly was on my own amongst strangers and other men and women with backstories that I was eager to know, especially when you're a young person in boot camp or any institution where you're training with strangers, where you come from all across the world, all walks of life to do one task, which is join the military, go to college, what have you. I've always been interested in people's backstories. So this was the first time that I really got a chance to appreciate my family from afar as I get to know other people and learn we're all pretty similar. We all have baggage. Now, my family sent letters. I read them. You know, I remember reading them and like, man, feeling so bad that I didn't write back because I wanted them to know I was okay, which they knew, but I had to prove it to myself that I didn't need that extra support, that I needed to stand on my own 2 feet, which I think that decision at 18 still shaped who I am today. I'm kind of a person who's very much no news is good news kind of thinker. So if somebody is going through something, I won't know unless you tell me, and I assume everything is good. And I over the years have learned to reach out to others, but I've kind of always just been sort of a solo dolo kind of person. Now, when it comes to these letters, they are very personal because over the years, as I've reread them, I think the last time I really read them as in full was around 2015, 16, a couple years after my father had died while I was in the military. And him dying while I was in was one of the catalysts that made me decide I didn't want to stay for a full 10, 20 years because I didn't want my life to pass me by. Not so much that would have been a bad thing if I stayed in, like a lot of my friends are still in, and I still respect people that do. It's more so I didn't want to make the same decision he would have most likely made, if that makes sense, because you're comfortable. And it's funny, when I got the call that he died, I was getting yelled at for being late to PT, insignificant thing really. But it really just shifted my entire perspective. And after my contract was up and I was able to get out honorably, I got out and focused on my life to do whatever really is I wanted, whether it was creative endeavor, whether it was traveling. I just said, you know what, this life is mine, and I will do that. And I did visit home every now and again. I did chat with my folks, but I never was a person that chatted every week like other people I knew. And those are one of the decisions that I'm still trying to get better at, chatting with my mother and my sisters. But I still have that no news is good news mindset. But I've come to terms with it, that it's not so much me ignoring people. It's more so me trusting in them to live their life. And I've gotten better. I visit. Everybody lives in pretty much in the same state, near the same area. And over the years I've learned to be more present, to be more like him in that way, you know, appreciating his flaws and growing in my own right. So I wanted to say all that to lead into these letters. I chose out the first three that sort of encapsulates his sort of worldview in a weird way on one, how much he loved me and how much I loved him, but also what it really meant to really connect. Now, growing up, we didn't really celebrate Father's Day. He would say every day is Father's Day. We were not a family who celebrated openly on big holidays a lot, because if we had the money to get a present, we get it then. We get it at that point. We don't wait till Christmas or birthdays or any other day. We were all about acknowledging each other throughout the year. And that's one of the reasons I probably led to my mindset of not writing back, because I knew how much he loved me, and he knew so much. He knew how much I loved him. So for me, it was not something that I had to do, because I didn't need to prove my love by writing these letters. But as I've gotten older, I've learned to give love more, receive love more, and these are sort of what these letters are about. Now, I went to boot camp in May of 2010 and graduated in July. So this is around the time when I'm actively in that mindset. If we had a time machine to go into the past, you'd see me right here in June in boot camp getting these letters and reading it. Now, this letter here is dated, and you can see this is a very authentic letter. You have pretty good handwriting. Mine is atrocious. But this is, I think, one of the first ones. Some of these I don't think made it, but for the most part, they stayed intact. But these are the top three that I was able to find. They're probably in storage somewhere. My mom has them, maybe, but these are the ones that have just always traveled with me. So this one is dated Thursday, May 20th, 2010. And here we go. He says, "Dear Nico, what's up? How are you doing? How are you doing? I hope this letter finds you well, as always. I miss you. I miss our talks, playing games, and just hanging out. I think of you and smile and laugh. You're doing great things with your life. I love you, my son. And you know you will always have my respect, support, and as always, my undying love from day one, my son." Keep saying my son, my son, very Jor-El like. "In the next few weeks, you're going to be very occupied. Remember, there is nothing that they can throw at you that you can't handle. There will be something that will be easy for you and some will be hard. And remember, what's easy for you may be hard for someone else, and they will need your help. And what's hard for you, hopefully, there will be someone there to help you. And if not, there are always God and me. And like I always said, you do your best and then some, and there's no wrong in that. Everyone sends their love. You stay strong, and you can do this. I didn't buy that game. Anyway, I know you must have had a thing to do. With love and all my best, your dad, Walter Marino Durham. P.S. It's all right to shed a tear sometimes." See, this was the first one he wrote, which makes me emotional reading it. I'm not a big crier, so I mean, I cried at the end of Forrest Gump, which is also at the part when he's reading the letter to the grave to Jenny about his son. Maybe that's why I like father and son stories. Hmm. But this one was good. I don't know what game he's referring to. I think I do. I think that comes in the next letter. But I love that, you know, we chat about that. Like we used to chat about games and stuff all the time, which means I'm telling you, he would have been a hell of a reviewer. It would have been very vulgar. I don't know if he would have been as PC, but in this day and age, he probably would have found a following anyway. So this next one is in red, but this is dated Tuesday, May 25th, 2010 at 2:46. Now, it's got to be 2:46 p.m., but it may be a.m. I mean, he's a night owl, and especially when he was drinking or anything like that, he would just stay up. But, I can talk about this now because, benefit of hindsight, right? But this one he goes, "Dear Nico, greetings. How's it going? He spells going, gonging. He was also dyslexic, but it's fine. I miss you. Anyway, all's well here. Guess what? We are not moving after all that bullshit. We're going to stay here at 3524. LOL. Anyway, I went out and got the game Red Dead Redemption. I like this motherfucking game. To me, it's better than Grand Theft Auto. I got it for the Xbox 360. I think you'll like this one. Well, Latoya, my sister, asked about you. She was in the Navy prior as well. I gave her your address. She said that you're in the same unit she was in, Ship 3. In boot camp, that was the ships they called them when you were in the base or whatever. What can you say? Kenny Tracy asked about you and says hi. You hanging in there. You are doing great. I look forward to seeing you in July. Oh, and by the way, I put $100 in your Navy account and gave Capital One $20 for now. I will put more in next payday. Remember, keep your head up. You're doing great. I love you, my son, Nico. As always, you are the one whom I delight. I love you. You take care of you. I look forward to hearing and seeing you again. Love your father, Walter Marino Durham. See, if he loved Red Dead Redemption 1, and we play like Red Dead Revolver and all this stuff, he would be elated at Red Dead Redemption 2. I still have it. I can go on a whole nother rant. He used to rant a lot, and that's where I kind of got it from. But the fact that we don't have a remaster of Red Dead Redemption 2, or the fact that we haven't gotten more DLC really angers me. But I get it. They got to work on GTA 6, whatever. But he was huge into those games. Growing up, I was allowed to play whatever I wanted. There were no, this is too young for me. I think I turned out okay. I was the one who taught my dad and sister about GTA's nightly activities with the uh, uh, picking up the sex workers. Can you imagine like I don't know how old I was. Let's say 12 for funsies. And I'm teaching them like, hey, you just honk your horn in GTA 3 and they just show up. But all right, here's the last one. This one was a little later because I had my mom and sisters write other ones. Here you go. This was dated Thursday, June 3rd, 2010. And it goes, hi, Mr. Nico. Greetings. I hope this letter finds you well and I'm in good spirits. How are you doing? I pray you're in good health and are well. Anyways, all's well here. Everyone told me to say hi from them, Ambrose, Bullock, Kenny, my other uncles, and so on. There's not much to say sometimes. I find myself talking or asking you something and you're not here. That's funny. I'll be doing something and yell Nico, and then it hits me. He's not here. LOL. Anyway, I look forward to seeing you soon. Dominique and Mom are doing fine. You keep hanging in there. You're doing great. I pray that you found other people of good virtue to hang out with, okay? Well, as always, with me, undying love, he scratched out father, I think he misspelled it, Father, Walter Marino Durham. P.S. If you need anything, let me know. And those were the three. Now, with those letters, this is where the guilt I was feeling originally was happening. Because not writing back, I don't think we ever really talked about it after boot camp. But looking at the timeline, graduating boot camp in 2010 in A school, getting assigned to my ship, saw him after boot camp, hung out. And then in 2011, I was on deployment for 11 months, called when I could, and then visited him once we got back after 11 months. And then, had a few underways on the ship. And I was stationed in Virginia. So Maryland wasn't that far of a drive, Virginia Beach, but I still had this, like, I got to do this on my own mindset. Maybe it was trauma from growing up or various other things I hadn't computed yet. But I didn't talk as much to them like I would any other adult now. Anybody that's been in the military understands that, like, that shift in your brain chemistry. It's like, not like you become a whole different person, but nothing tastes the same after deployment. Nothing feels the same after you've been away and back, especially talking to people in a certain way and then talking to family members and how do you chat with them about all the things that you've experienced, good and bad. And it's weird. And then I think about the timeline from 2012 to 2013. I would visit, we would chat, but how my relationship is with my mom and every other family members, like we talk quite a lot. We're chatting, we talk about different things in life, and those are those years that I didn't get to have with him because I wasn't there. And I think that's one of the hardest parts I had to wrap my brain around. And then also one of the parts that I think he would have survived if he took better care of himself. But benefit of hindsight, these are things you can't live in. So for Father's Day, I thought that was I know this is a sort of a tribute. I think I would consider this my final creative tribute. I mean, even just reflecting on reading those, all the feelings started bubbling up, and it takes a lot to read those words, because that's not all he was, but you can tell that his mindset was always on virtue, on dignity, and finding a tribe. Even if he couldn't say those words, then that is what he was saying. And for anybody that has lost a father and a parent, or anybody close that is sort of your mentor, just know that you hang on to their words while they're here, because they'll stick with you forever. And everybody's going to lose a parent. And I think I am very blessed and grateful that honestly it did happen, because it taught me a lesson real early in life that we all lose. No one lasts forever. Even the people you look up to most, even the people that frustrate you most, they could just go, and they could die. And it took me a while to even say the phrase that he's dead, because I used to say pass away. And I remember the old George Carlin bit, bringing it back to comedy, where, all these euphemisms you used to say, he didn't just pass away, he died. And I think saying that honors the dead more than saying somebody has passed on. Even if we do believe that there is another life or another plane of existence, I think dying in this world is an honor in a way, because it releases you from the pain of the existence that we're living right now. And I do believe that he's proud of me. I'm proud of him. It would be beautiful if he was here to see my family now, but he is. I mean, just as much as they say in Lion King, like, he lives in you. So anybody that is still with their parents, honor them, forgive them, or don't, but make peace whatever decision you have. And I think that's the main thing that I learned. Whether I forgave my parents for any psychological, emotional harm they may have doled out to me, it doesn't matter. I've made peace with every decision that has been made in the past in regards to my family, because it's all part of the pieces, the puzzle that is me. And my kids will no doubt be traumatized by something I say or do, and then the cycle repeats itself, because it's a human thing. But I just wanted to say, hey, happy Father's Day. Maybe for the first time in my life, truly, happy Father's Day to him, to every father and parent. And I hope the world gives you all the things you all deserve. All right. Take care.